Ladies and gentlemen, let me present Pinyam Kurutu. Sir. Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
As a province, as the Premier, what turnaround strategy is there for us to ensure that education is prioritized rather than water, electricity, and unemployment? Because we do understand that in order to be employed, you need certain skills and you have to get them, acquire them through education.
Well, the first thing is that we have come here to receive a report from the Statistician General. And having received the report, obviously his explanation has been very revealing. Revealing in the sense that it's given us a sense of connection between the citizen survey, citizen satisfaction survey, and what exactly has now been produced. And it seems to us that there are areas that will need to be addressed. And the problem with such an exercise is that, for me, it lacked the people who are the engine of running this government. And those are the people I'm worried about, and that is why I've indicated to the SG that we will request that his office comes again, but now not to our people, to our voters here, specifically to government. Because we want to say to them, do you realize what the mentality of our people out there is? They don't regard education as the most important element of the developing of our nation. Whereas, from all studies that are being done, education seems to be the key, and that is where we should be focusing on, without undermining, obviously, the other aspects which our people have lacked for a number of years. So we want to balance between having to provide what has been lacking in the past, but also reorientating our society back into the real issue, and that is the real issue of them developing themselves with the hope that in the future they will make a better contribution to the country's economy, to their country, and therefore employment as well. Because employment and education go hand in hand. And if they are not dealt with properly, they will then deal with us. In other words, I'm saying that it's been a good exercise, it's been revealing. I wanted to reveal as well to those who are the engines of government, and that is our senior managers, starting from the heads of department going down. We will be talking and engaging on that.
Tonight, including, of course, the said factor that education still did not remain a priority for our people in South Africa. You should sort of like briefly run us through that again, telling us how it has not changed over the years and what could be perhaps the causes.
You want to take more than one?
Or more questions, yes.
Anybody else?
On the on the planning of the municipality, they seem to be kind of like, judging from the numbers that came out and the priorities that came out, they seem not to be kind of like focusing on this. Any kind of like elaboration on that, maybe since we are going towards the local government elections?
Okay. Is there one more?
Just. And you also mentioned the Fees Must Fall campaign, especially that's what the Fees Must Fall campaign, which was advocated by black peoples. Don't you think that perhaps the slow growth of black academics, or rather black children who are educated, is linked with them not having enough money for school fees, rather than our white counterparts who have got enough financial support to gain education.
Okay, sir, over to you.
Yes, no, thank you very much. Let me appreciate the presence of the Premier, that he took time to receive these numbers. Also appreciate the fact that he says, well, the people in government who should be here, we should have a session where we discuss in greater detail these numbers. And indeed, we welcome that, and as the Statistician General and my team at say, we definitely will take the first horse to KwaZulu-Natal from Pretoria to come and discuss that, because it's very, very crucial. These numbers are very, very profound. I mean, people have to engage with them. Now, coming to the specific questions as regards education. At times when you give these numbers, you sound unfair when you said too little, too late has been done in certain spheres of the society, particularly in the area of education. There are still too few South Africans who are qualifying at tertiary level. There are still too few South Africans that actually manage to go through matric. Too few out of 1 million children that are born actually manage to go through the school system. Those problems have to be sorted out, because if they are not sorted out, we have a backlog that we know what caused it. And the Fairwood statement that was the use of teaching a Bantu child mathematics when it can't do it in practice. It's a very profound statement, because it was followed by a battery of legislation that made sure that black children don't progress. Now, that is very, very profound. And what we are seeing is that a generation of people who can't lead lives of their children was produced and reproduced over a number of years. So the challenge is very, very deep, and we need to really sit up and think as to how this has to be tackled. There are those of us who write that the number of graduates in South Africa are doubling. Sure, they are doubling. But if you double from 2 to 4, yes, that's doubling. But it's different from doubling from 20,000 to 40,000. Or doubling from 1 million to 2 million. It's still doubling, but it's a different magnitude. And we have to understand that. And unless we understand the dire problems around progressing from one level to the next, what we saw was a divergence of progression between race groups. That must set us asking the question, what is happening? It means that whatever objective we want to meet, we'll never meet it. Because progressively we are going the wrong direction altogether at the blacks and colored population, whereas the Indian and the white population is moving in the right direction in terms of acquiring the skills. But we must also know that they are just too few to influence the direction of this country. And they also have their distribution across the country is concentrated in specific areas. And if you think diffusion is the model to go ahead, that diffusion is not going to happen, because they have very strict concentrations. So not only they are few, but their residential patterns are so concentrated that there is no diffusion that will occur. So we need a model that ensures that the colored and the blacks actually aspire and move in that direction of the education amongst the whites. I get quite depressed when I hear people saying, yes, there's doubling, there's that. I'm saying, well, I don't want to, I actually feel frustrated by listening to that kind of talk. It looks like people don't see the tragedy that we are heading towards. And it's very tragic in that if the children who are 0 to 14 today go through the same paces that those who are 15 to 34 have gone through, or 15 to 30 have gone through, we really face a dilemma, serious dilemma. It means that there is not going to be any change in the country, in the society. So we must see that change happening to those who are 0 years, who are not to 14 years now, immediately. And that means very, very drastic changes in the way we manage and drive education in the country. It means this is where there should be major investments so that when these kids go start university or tertiary, they're a completely different breed to the one that we have now. Because without that, the children of these children who are 0 to 14, in another 10 years' time, are going to be condemned. The parents of these children who are 0 to 14 now are going to die poor. It means an implosion in terms of a demographic implosion in South Africa. And I think we have to understand the demographic implications of what we have in South Africa now. That going forward, it cannot be. So, yes, there are reasons. The fees must fall, the children there, we see them, we meet with them, we talk. We intervene where we can as an organization from time to time, 1 or 2 people that have actually passed very well matric, they're at the university. Somebody has said, I'll help you with books. The other one says, I'll help you with food. The other one says, I'll help you with accommodation. Well, when food, accommodation, and books come at different points of time, you can't succeed. It's like the tragedy of delivery of books. Students only at times receive books towards the end of the year. You need books from day one, you need food from day one. So the unlinked support system to black students is by and large what drives their demise. I was in the Free State and we had a discussion with the Premier. And the Premier is quite good with the numbers. Tells us that I have 9,000 students. They are succeeding. Why are they not? This storyline that we are putting here doesn't occur in the 9,000 students. I said exactly, Premier. It doesn't exist because you have a possible support system to those students to succeed. It is that question that now we must answer for everybody. It can't be a matter of chance. You cannot say, yes, the poor children, that one, poor and this did so well, got all stars. True, we must appreciate that. But that's delivering the South African children on a matter of platform of chance. It can't be left to chance. It cannot. It has to be led, it has to be driven, and it has to be planned on an average children, on an average child, rather than on a brilliant child. It can't be. If it is that way, then we run a very strong risk. Now, the problem is this. The president wants education to improve. The parents want their children to pass. The children want to pass. The Minister of Education wants the children to pass. The MEC wants the children to pass. Now, in that process of good intentions, perverse things happen. One of which is, then children don't do mathematics, they do maths literacy. And then the school, the principal, and everybody, and parents say, no, my child, forget about this thing called mathematics, go and do maths literacy. So that in December, when the results come out, you have your certificate, you have passed. And then that certificate, when they have to go to school, to university, or tertiary, is not worth the paper it is written on. Because these institutions require that you have acquired a particular type of education, numeracy and reading and writing. Our situation is quite difficult. I mean, we have had strikes by teachers, for good or for worse. We've got the Vuani situation, where the institution of education is destroyed. All those things do not augur well for education. So this thing has to be addressed at multiple levels. And these numbers, I think people must see that we are facing a tiger in the mouth in this country if we can't deal with the education. More importantly, these kinds of trouble that we see in South Africa's education, it's not unique to South Africa. On the African continent, there isn't as much investment in education as it's in Africa, in South Africa. And a similar outcome is likely to emerge. And if the continent has to own the 21st century, it has to behave differently.
Okay. On municipalities planning and
Yes, I think the question of planning in municipalities is quite a difficult one. It's an interesting one. We have done some work in that area, looking at municipalities and IDPs, and looked at the quality of the IDPs. At the time when we assessed the IDPs, KwaZulu-Natal had a fairly comprehensive, coherent plan, but that was about 7 years ago, when we looked at how does KwaZulu-Natal look at the IDPs. Other IDPs are, but even then you can see that they are not really driving the programs. I think based on the citizen satisfaction survey, a different body polity will be infused in the planning process. And I think with the CS results, questions of education, we'll have a better view as to how the quality of the IDPs should look like. So this data must be used as the platform for looking at IDPs. If we don't, we are not going to move far. I mean, we at KZN as well have made data much better available now than we did a number of years ago, 10 years, 15 years ago. So in part, we have to blame for not making the data available in the way that it would actually shed light where needs are. And we are, from our office, committed to ensuring that we should shine this light in those dark nooks and corners that are not readily visible. And what the Premier was asking for, this engagement, is very important. One of the things that we have developed in KZN is because we are aware that the planning tools are woefully weak in the country. For a country so sophisticated, where you don't have planning tools, you are not going to go far. Because of that, we worked for the last 6 months up to the 12 months to look at what are the planning tools, or at least the tools that makes information visible to policy, so that policy can act differently. We have the growth accounting framework as one of those. We've got the social accounting matrix. I'm using these terms because they capture the essence of what I'm talking about. We are using those, and then we have got something called the ZIF process to translate the information that helps planning across space and time. And these tools, when you bring them together, they weave an image, a picture, that planners can start now understanding what is actually happening. I mean, today I was releasing the CAPEX, which is a capital expenditure. Tomorrow I'll be releasing, on Thursday I'll be releasing the quarterly labor force survey. The other day we'll be releasing and then in September we'll be releasing the GDP, including expenditure. Now these are series that come one after the other, and they can only cause schizophrenia to the politicians. What we need to do is to weave that detailed story into a storyline that says, this is actually the state of South Africa. Now the planner can now understand better how they address that. When they come one by one like that, I mean, it's very confusing. We'll still continue to do that. But over and above that is the value add of ensuring that this data forms the platform on which the plan is visible. And I thought that the presentation I was putting and drawing those connections from all over enabled the planners to think differently and have something that more visibly and prioritize differently. That's what the statistics office should do going forward.